Alrighty, check, radio check. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here. There are some tools that we use in our practice, and if you're familiar with something we call a retirement analyzer, you know that it forecasts, basically your unique puzzle and how we're doing. And then there's been some improvements to that tool, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But if you were on my call, not last 2 weeks ago, we did the topic 9 to know. So if you're not familiar with professional planning services, not familiar with who we are as an organization, maybe sort of want to get a pulse on how your future looks like, we did a 9 questions that gave us, the ability to sort of forecast. It's almost like a financial GPS. I'm hitting into chat right now. If you don't have an iPhone or a phone that can scan a QR code, I'm putting in a link to 9 to know. If you'd like to see what your picture looks like, again, I'm not going to repeat what we did already, other than show us that in last week's case, this client was showing that they had the potential to run out of money based on the assumptions that were put in. So, if we had a crystal ball to be able to tell us what we are doing, how we're doing, assumptions that we're making, when would you want to know? And for me, and what we find is most of our clients want some type of bellwether or some type of GPS to tell us, hey, are we going in the right direction? So what Retirement Analyzer has come up with, though, is something that once you fill in this data, you can then I'll be able to look at it. I can contact you, and that's great. And but if you're already a client, right, the client portal, or maybe you want to become a client, basically will build out a more in-depth viewpoint of your picture. And we're going to take us through that now. So the first thing is you're going to be able to access your data apart from mine, right? So really it's the same data, but if you go in and play with the numbers, if we give you editing capabilities, will not overwrite my data. But maybe something changed on your side. Maybe you want to use a different interest rate or inflationary rate. So playing with these numbers will give you the ability to see what that might look like. Now, if you're new to professional planning services, you'll know that one of the things I pride myself on is we are not a hard sale. We're not trying to listen at your own pace. I find that, I just had a client that apparently found me on YouTube and said, they really liked my genuineness. And that's I'm what you see is what you get. I think there's just way too much nonsense out there. And I think being genuine and transparent with folks is a breath of fresh air. So the way that we start that relationship is I'm not going to ask you for any sensitive data, right? We don't need your Social Security numbers or your tax accounts or your brokerage account statements right now. This is like a first date, right? You're just getting to know each other, feel each other out. Are you a fit? If you are an existing client or prospective client, you'll have access to edit it if you want to, right? So the analyzer helps you figure out you are here, right? So I always use the analogy of we go to a mall and we know we want to go to a store in the mall, but we don't know where exactly that is. The first place you go to is the directory. Well, whether that's here or maybe we're driving cross country to some destination, we'd need a map. But we have to understand where we are first. And that's what the Retirement Analyzer tool allows us to do. It helps us to plan routes, right? And then start to anticipate unforeseen circumstances. It's the most comprehensive retirement software I've seen in my career. And again, if you're already familiar with it, the one thing is you always had to wait for me to hop on a call to be able to play with your numbers or update your numbers. Whereas now you'll have the ability to have your own section where you can update it. And then let's say that we're planning to get together in a week. I can archive my existing file and then use your file to update the numbers so that we're all in cohesiveness. So, and again, no cost to you, right? So again, I am a fiduciary. Nothing is free. But if I ever say that there might be a cost, I'll let you know that well in advance. There's no surprises, no smoke and mirrors, right? So it's our part of our practice that we are able to extend to you, right, in hopes to earn your business. So the first part is client profile. It's data entry. It's all the things. You can fill in as much or as little as you want to, right? So, things on the client profile you can put in, you'll see on the next page, right? There's even some more detail, whether you put it in or not, but it might also prompt some things that maybe you weren't thinking about, right? Hey, what are your goals? What are your notes? What's your tax filing status? You'll see on the next page, right? We're going to talk about 10 tabs across the top. The first one, and the ones that really impact the folks on this call, are your income, number one, number two, and number three. When you get your client portal, you will have all these tabs across the top, except the last three. These last three are solution-based to problems. So that they're only on my side of the software, but you'll get an abbreviated version, again, that you can edit and play with, but it'll be in real time. Now, as you look at this, the data that we're looking at, and I think, first thing is, how much you're earning on a monthly basis. Maybe you're entering into retirement. Maybe that number is zero. Well, the next thing is, when do you plan on retiring? These are important things to know, so that ultimately we want to know, hey, when should I draw on Social Security? Is it being optimized, right? Those are topics that we've touched base on before. And then if you're one of those unique folks that has a pension, when will that kick in and for how much? And, just all the things that typically, I've seen a lot of people try and build their own spreadsheets, but there's a lot of moving parts just on this page. So when you think about it, right, that, okay, to be able to start to not only put our income, right, so it looks like there's not a lot of data here, but there's a lot going on and things where I have to do a little bit deeper dive. Well, then obviously we go to the next tab, which is assets. Now, when we look at our assets, right, there are different types of assets. The first is spendable, right? That's what we put in, and we say, hey, that's our Bank of America account. How much is in there? Maybe there's a 401k. How much are we contributing, right? Whatever the client in this example is putting in. Then there's protected assets, typically something that we don't want to use towards retirement. Now, I didn't put it into this model, but usually we'll put it in a home, right? And maybe there's a mortgage still on it or something to that nature. All this, again, is data that you'll be able to put in. But I think the most often overlooked area is the tax classification of the accounts that you're actually saving money in. I'll say this over and over and over again to advisors that I teach and train. It's the taxes, it's the taxes, it's the taxes. If you're not looking forward to the possibility of higher tax rates in the environments that you're saving your money in, you could be in for a rude awakening 10, 20, 30 years into retirement. So that's why in your 401k, if you're just squirreling away because the HR department or the person next to you told you that was the right thing to do, we have to rethink traditional wisdom. And we don't want to use generic shotgun approaches to planning. We want to take a look at your specifics, say, hey, you are here, and maybe your initial picture looks bright. But then if the government does change the rules along the way, increases our taxes along the way, where does that leave you into the future? So this is what that second tab and why I spend some time, and usually it's an area when we're verifying data, I like to get into the weeds a little bit because I want to understand fully what you're currently doing. And then, as we start to look and project out into the future, is that still a prudent decision on a go forward? Part of this is a lot of people will say, well, what's the rate of return that you're able to? And that's a very subjective question. Quite often folks are way overexposed from a risk standpoint, and this calculator is really just risk on or risk off. I can absolutely do a deep dive on a risk assessment of a portfolio, And I think that that takes away from the real risk. So although there's market risk, and obviously last year everybody felt it, we may continue to feel it this year, right? So 2 years, for every 1 to 2 down years, we typically will be followed by 2 to 3 up years. So as much as we've seen volatility into the marketplace, I think it's here to stay. Our portfolios, as we start to head into retirement, we have to understand what is the landscape or the horizon telling us, and are we positioned in the most efficient way that we can get. Obviously we all want to make money. Are they reasonable expected rates of return? And then are we doing anything to lower the risk along the way, right? So these are all sort of part of the conversations that we could and should be having on a go forward, right? So that's the asset tab, right? And then ultimately, like I said, the rate of return, I'll use whatever number a client wants to use. You're saying, hey, I'm getting 12% on my portfolio. I'll use it. I'll use whatever you want to. But at the end of the day, I am not here to tell you what you want to hear, but I am here to tell you what you need to know. And so as we go forward and we start to look and peel back layers of the onion of your current holdings, your current plan, what I'm trying to do is to help you to get to where you want to go with as little pain as possible, right? And then so ultimately, a lot of people, when they're doing this process, what's your net worth, right? So where are you at in this example, right? So it's good to be able to go to one place and say, hey, this is the data that now sort of, this is my financial picture, my financial GPS to help me to get to where I want to go. Now, this is the tab that I think most advisors absolutely overlook. Because here's, again, I have some letters after my name. I'm not here to pat myself on the back, but being a retirement income certified planner, I get into the weeds. And the reason is because expenses that you have pre-retirement are not going to be the expenses that you have post-retirement. And then once you turn around and you say, hey, listen, because we're going to ask the in-depth questions on your expenses, you can give me a boilerplate number. You can say, and this is the problem that I find with most software out there. A lot of the do-it-yourselfers will go out there and they'll plug in a number. My expenses are $5,000 a month. Okay, I'll use whatever numbers you want to. But that could be the difference between running out of money and not running out of money, because some of those expenses may change along the way. And I have the ability to ask questions that maybe you haven't even thought of yet, right? Things that I've seen in my career that can help us avoid calamity along the way. But the other one is, now this has been popping up everywhere, right? Even though I'm using 3% right now, you can see that, hey, in December, we're, 6 plus on an inflationary rate, right? So we got our expense plan, but our inflation. So, it basically is a gallon of milk today costing the same as it did a year ago, as it did 10 years ago. A gallon of gas, right? So there's some volatility, but we have to plan for some increased costs, right? Whether that's planned obsolescence, right? Whether that's technological obscurity, right? We have to turn around and make sure that we're staying ahead of the curve or planning for expenses that, again, we haven't necessarily thought about. So I try and bring that to the surface. This is an area I think that differentiates us on a go forward, because we do shine a spotlight on a lot of your daily utilizations, your daily lifestyle. And again, I'm not here to tell you whether your lifestyle is good or bad, or to go on vacation or not go on vacation, how much to spend on vacation. This is your money. I'm just a guide. But if you were on a trip with a guide and we were going hiking up to Alaska, and the guide saying, hey, you're eating way too much food early on, wouldn't you want to know that? So that's, again, the sort of the philosophy that we instill here to help us to make sure that we have an enjoyable journey, so that as we get through life, that things are okay. Now, ultimately, the tax section, this is, again, it's a very comprehensive program and it can get into, but it's talking about our current tax environments. And then we can start to change things and project things within the software to say, hey, what if the government changes the rules? What if I move to another state? What if income taxes go up, or maybe I have an increase in some other type of tax? We can import or adjust to give us more of a realistic picture of the impact of our tax liabilities. And one of the things that I like to say, it's not how much money do we end up with, it's what did it cost us to get there. So this program allows us to look at that along the way. Again, retirement, this client here does not have a red line, right? So basically, whether they did or not, what I try and just show is based on all the inputs we're forecasting. And as much as you can see in year 2024, there's 64. I could click on that button. You could click on that button. You could go in month by month and see, hey, we have a negative cash flow. Well, if we have a negative monthly cash flow, in this example, negative $3,049 per month in 2024, what accounts are we pulling from to meet that shortfall until some of these other numbers start giving us a surplus, right? Where's that surplus coming from? Could be coming from the pension, could be coming from Social Security, right? So that's what one of the things that we start to look at as we go forward. What does your specific picture, and you'll have access to this to play with to help you to sleep at night a little better. So again, the client portal, if you're an existing client, you'd like access, just email me, right? So if you're on this call, you like what you see, all I have to do is click a button. I'll turn around and send you an invite. You'll be able to go in and I'll pick the last model that we did, or I'll update your current model. And that will be your working model on a go forward. And then we can just adjust or edit as we go forward. If you'd like to try it yourself, please click on the QR code, the 9 to know. Right, start with that. Let's go through that process first, just the 9 generic questions. That'll import you over into prospects. And then once you're a prospect, I'll be able to go in and turn you into a client and then give you client access. So this is, I was excited to see that they, improve this tool. To make it, more interactive for our clients and allow them to be able to either adjust numbers, do what if scenarios, whatever. So hopefully this is as impressive to you as it was to me. That's why I wanted to do a back-to-back call. So disclosures, this shows that this is, all my material. And there's my contact information if you need me. So again, reach out. God bless. Have a great day. And I look forward to seeing all of you.